Hello again. Well, this video is going to be slightly different to the radio repair I'm currently undertaking on the bush because it's nothing to do with that at all. I'm waiting, just to update you, I'm waiting for heat resistant cable to come for that one to wire up the resistors, but enough of that. What I'd like to talk to you about this time is an Enigma machine. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm fascinated by Bletchley Park, Alan Turing, and the way things were decoded and the way things happened during the Second World War. And I've got a number of books about Turing, the Enigma by Andrew Hodges, Secret Listeners, and this one I've recently acquired, which is by Gordon Welchman, Bletchley Park's Architecture of Ultra Intelligence. And I'd love to own a reproduction Enigma machine, but the reproduction ones are quite expensive. So I've been looking around for a kit, and I went onto a website and I found a really nice Enigma kit. And this video is going to be about that. It's also going to be a little bit about Christmas, because I think this kit would make an ideal Christmas present to keep a lot of you very much amused, especially sort of older children. It's fascinating. So I'd like to share the kit I bought with you, and so let's have a look at it. The kit I purchased was from MadLab, and they do a whole range of kits on various different electronic projects. This one costs, I think, about £17, and it's an accurate simulation of the M3 Enigma cipher machine used by the German Navy. So it's a naval cryptic machine during the Second World War. It does come with, simulates all 8 rotors. 2 reflectors are also available electronically, and each of the rotors is a selectable ring position. If you read about the Enigma machine, you know what I mean by that. As well as a start position in plug board. It's also supported. Now, the kit came in this small PCB, socket for the PIC controller, and the components it's needed. It did not come with a keyboard, which you have to supply yourself, but they're reasonably inexpensive from Asda or Tesco, about £5 or £6, and you need also to supply a battery and a case to put it in. Now, what I've done in my case, excuse the pun, is I went to a cheap Poundland store, and they were selling nuts and bolts there in a little box. So I bought the box, emptied all the screws out and put them in another container, and bought a keyboard, and there it is, and that's the Enigma machine built into this little box. So it does the job. In the box also I fitted an on and off switch, and so it's not external to the box, and also an LED to show when the thing is on. So that's the kit. Now, I didn't think there was any point in buying one Enigma machine, because it's like having one, if you excuse the very old pun, does anyone remember fax machines? It's like someone who had the first fax machine or the first telephone. You need 2. So I did buy 2 kits, and I've got them here side by side, and 2 keyboards. Now, you can also download all the paperwork and documentation with it. So let's just, before I demonstrate the machine, let's just have a little look at that. The paperwork that you also download comes with, includes rather, the Enigma code book. I don't know if you can see that. Let me get it in a better position so it's not reflective. So you've got your the different days down here that you can use, and the rotor positions you can set up, and the rings you can set up, the reflector positions you can set up, and the plugs you can set up. So that's that bit of it. But also you can download a coding sheet. Now the coding sheet is, you put the rotors and everything there. The receiving party needs to have one of these as well. So you put your plain text in here and the ciphertext here, and you can do that for whichever message you want. Now, so that's those 2, and the key guide it also comes with a key guide, and it tells you about setting up the various, sorry about the reflection, the various rotors, setting up the displays and what the whole thing does. There's a lot of text there, but it's very comprehensive. The building of the kit is not too difficult at all. I mean, I've got it in this in this little box. That's all it is. It's just a small screw box. I've actually, as I said just now, fitted the battery, little self-adhesive tape, and the board. Comes with a display, the switch, and that, and then a socket for the keyboard, and that basically is it. So without any more ado, should we turn the thing on and see what it actually does? So here are my two electronic versions of the Enigma machine. They're not connected in any way at all. They're completely separate. They could be on the other ends of the world. And I've turned them both on. You can see the little LEDs glowing there. But if I turn them off and on again, you'll see what happens. Initially, when you turn on, the word Enigma will be spelled out. And to get out of that, you just press escape on each keyboard. Right, the original Enigma machine was an electromechanical device and had rotors which turned differently each time a key was pressed, and you had rings which moved separately as well, and a reflector which reflected the whole of the mechanical process, electrical process, back through the machine, scrambling it yet again. So let's do a simple test on these. Let's write my name, D-A-V-I-D. So I want to send David in plain text from this machine to that machine, but I need to scramble it. So I press D, and it comes up with M. I press A, and it comes up with D. I press V, and it comes up with Q. I press I, and it comes up with Q again, and I press D, and it comes up with I. So I send MDQQI to the other machine. Providing this machine is set up with the same rotor positions and the same code, it will descramble it. So on this machine, I wanted to scramble what that says, so I press M, and it comes up with D. I press D, and it comes up with A. I press Q, and it comes up with V. I press Q again, and it comes up with I. And I press I, and it comes up with D. So it is completely unscrambled the ciphertext back into plain text. Okay, so let's escape from that, and just to double check it, I will send the same message back again. So I want to send David back to this machine, so I push D, and it comes up with M. I press A, and it comes up with D. I press V, and it comes up with Q. I press I, and it comes up with Q. And I press D, and it comes up with I. So again, it's put it back into ciphertext, and on this machine I press M, and it comes up with D. I press D, and it comes up with A. I press Q, and it comes up with V. I press Q again, and we have I. And I press I, and it comes up with D. So it's it's scrambled it into ciphertext and put it back into plain text, which is absolutely amazing. And all I have to do to change things the next day, I want to make things slightly different, I just changed the rotors. So the next day I say okay, let's change the rotors. So I press F3 on here and it asks me for a rotor position, so I'll put in 3. No, it doesn't like that, so I'll F3, set the ring positions for the rotors, A to Z. So I'm going to type in F3 and I'm going to put in B, and then I'm going to put in the next rotor, which will be H, and the next rotor, which will be F, and the next rotor, which will be Y. Okay, that's set. And once that's set, I can shift F4, which will display the rotor positions. So if I go to shift F4, okay, so let's try the same encoding again with David. So I press D and it comes up with X this time. I press A and it comes up with F this time. I press V and it comes up with Q. I press I and it comes up with C, and I press D and it comes up with E. Now, because the rotor positions on this one are different, if I put these that ciphertext into this one, you'll see what happens. I press X and it comes up with S. I press F and it comes up with D. I press Q and it comes up with O. I press C and it comes up with Z, and I press E and it comes up with C. So because the receiver here didn't know the original code, the original settings of the rotors, then you're going to get ciphertext in and gobbledygook out. It just doesn't make sense. To go back to the original settings, it goes back to default, and the default on this is rotors 1, 2 and 3 in rings A, and A, and they start at A, and A, and the reflector is B, and there's no plugs. So let's escape again and we'll retry it. So D comes up with M, A comes up with D, V, we get Q as we did as last time, and I is another Q, and D is another I. Now if I repeat that on this one, M, we get D, D, we get A, Q, we get V, Q again, we get I, and lastly I, we get D. So this time, because the rotors and the reflector and the rings are all in sequence, i.e. they're one knows what the other one is set to, you can get the descrambled cipher code into plain text again. So that's basically how the thing works. It's very, very clever, and you can imagine how difficult it was for the guys at Bletchley Park to actually decipher and find a way of cracking the code, because they would have no idea what the ring settings were within the machines that were sending and receiving. So these are the two electronic ones. Very simple. Obviously you can build this into anything you want. I've just done it like this because I think they're nice and neat, and I'm very pleased with it. So how does all this affect Christmas? Well, let's have a think about that. Okay, so there's my Enigma machine, and I say the majority of this was down to the brilliance, the absolute brilliance of Alan Turing. If anyone's watched The Imitation Game, you'll know the kind of difficulties they went through or he went through to actually decode these machines. And the lives saved were enormous, because don't forget, these rotors changed every day, so they had to calculate what the settings were. Absolutely amazing. So how does it affect Christmas? Well, you can be creative and build two of these kits as Christmas presents and wrap them up. I'm sure it will give the family hours of fun instead of looking at their iPads and their phones all Christmas afternoon. They can be coding and decoding messages to each other using the Enigma machines, and that takes them back into history, and it gives a lot of fun. You can play games with them, you can have treasure hunts with them, you can do all sorts. If you want to be really, really annoying, what you can do is encipher or cipher the labels you put on your Christmas presents. So you get my name, for instance, and you encipher it and you encode it, and then to sort the presents out under the Christmas tree, people have to get out of the other machine and put the code in order to get the plain text to find out what present belongs to who. I suspect that might cause an awful lot of anguish and annoyance, but it's a thought, and it will delay opening the presents quite a bit. Thank you for watching. I hope I kindled your interest in the Enigma machine, and if you enjoy kit building, it's a very simple kit to build. It's not too expensive. I suppose by the time you buy the kit, it's £17 and about a fiver for the keyboards. You're talking about £25 a kit. An Enigma machine, you may be able to do it cheaper if you've got the keyboards, and a lot of fun building it, and certainly a lot of fun using it. Well, thank you for watching. I'm going to go now and do some more coding, but thank you for watching, and as always, take care.